Hi, I'm John Waterhouse, and this is Weekday Wisdom. And as I always do, I have a question for you today. The question is, how do the Ten Commandments apply to the science of mind? Now, the Ten Commandments were written thousands of years ago. At least that's the indication. And some of their language, in fact, quite a bit of its language sounds a bit archaic, but yet I believe that there's still truth in there that can be revealed through our understanding of the science of mind. So I'm going to go through these 10 commandments very briefly and give maybe a different frame of how this might apply to our lives today. Some of it will come pretty naturally, and some of it will give you something to think about. So here we go. The first of the 10 commandments is, "Thou shalt have no other God before me." In science of mind, we recognize that all exists in the oneness of God, including you and me. To me, this means that nothing exists outside of this oneness. There can be nothing outside or different from what is God. If we thought that anything was outside of God, we'd be denying the omnipresence of the divine, and we would have lost our way. By being personally aware of divine presence, God will always be our first allegiance. The second commandment is, "Thou shalt not make for thee any graven images." I have many symbols of my faith. I wear it as jewelry on my lapel and in other ways. And I even have a tattoo that has the teaching symbol of science of mind. But these things do not replace. In fact, they remind me of the absolute wholeness of divine presence everywhere, and especially within me. If I look to someone or something else, an organization, a spouse, a job, anything else, I'd be distracted from the greatest truth of life, that God is all, without exception. The third commandment is, "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain." To me, this is about finding fault or blame in anyone or anything. When we blame people or circumstances for our conditions, we're making God wrong. And that's as profane as it gets. To recognize the oneness of all life, we are served by honoring and respecting ourselves and everyone. If our words seek to destroy, then we've failed. Instead, ours is to build bridges of understanding and acceptance. And by doing so, we are recognizing the presence and keeping it holy. Speaking of keeping it holy, the third commandment is to remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. Well, the term Sabbath comes from the Jewish Shabbat, literally meaning a time that is sacred. This is about to me, it's about keeping our spiritual practice. When we take time to pray and meditate, and we do it regularly, and we make it a ritual that is important in our lives, we are in sacred observance of the divine, and it holds us in a place of being able to live that spiritual life that we so want to live. The fifth commandment is, "Honor thy father and thy mother." Well, regardless of our relationships with our parents, ours is to honor them for providing us with a body and with a safe place or childhood where we could grow up. And like everyone else, they too are the presence of the divine. As flawed as we may have seen them, for all the mistakes that they seem to have made, the truth is that God is what they are. So honoring them is like honoring life itself. The sixth commandment is, "Thou shalt not commit murder." And this holds true. The honoring of the sanctity of life is an expression of spiritual maturity. And the way I think that works is that if we spend our time watching movies where people are being slain, if we spend our time watching news reports of people being murdered, if that seems to be something we put a lot of attention on, I think we've lost our way. Our work is to hold life as sacred in every way and to see everyone in that sanctity of life. The seventh commandment is, "Thou shalt not commit adultery." Apparently, some of these commandments were addressing some of the problems that were existing in the Hebrew culture at that time. So this is where I see it today. This is more about lying to your spouse. What a foolish thing to do. How can I be honest with myself? How can you be honest with yourself if we can't be honest with the person that is the love of our life? Honesty is a sacred act, and it applies to the most intimate of our relationships, And if we can't do that, then we're missing the point. The eighth commandment is thou shalt not steal. Life is about balance. Stealing is taking without an equal exchange. And stealing isn't about shoplifting at a retail store. It's about anything that we take without creating an equal exchange, honoring the exchange of it. It puts into motion spiritual law that we are going to experience equal or greater loss based on what we stole. Only pain and suffering comes from acts like this that create that imbalance in our lives. We will feel it and we will know it. The ninth commandment is thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Lying about someone is the same as stealing from them. When we do it to others, it gets done to us. That's how spiritual law works. So if we're going to lie about people, people are going to lie about us, and we're going to face and suffer those consequences. And it's more than making up lies about somebody. Gossip is the same thing. It creates the same outcome. Such things always end up backfiring us. It's not worth it. And the 10th and final one, this is the long one. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Well, most of us don't have any servants or beasts of labor, but that's not really the point of this. The point is that wanting something that belongs to someone else leads all too often to jealousy and envy, neither of which make our lives any better and may cause us more harm than anything. If we are to live spiritually awakened lives, we would do well to celebrate the success of others. What that brings into our lives is a greater opportunity to have our own success. So there they are, the 10 commandments, and maybe some reframing that you can use. These are ancient ideas, but they're still valid when you can look deeply into them and see the truth of what they share. So I trust you found something insightful in this, and now go have a fantastic week.